What's up, world? It's Isaac here, 360 Talking. I'm here with the one and the only Humberly Gonzalez. Quick story to start off, how I met Humberly. Was it last year? The STARLINK launch.
2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? Man, time flies.
I know.
So I don't know if you know, when I met you, I was basically super stoned on painkillers.
Wow.
So the night before, so I did the STARLINK launch for UBISOFT, which Humberly was incredible in, playing chase.
Yes.
Video game, STARLINK. So you did the voice work and you did some mocap and stuff. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I did for the launch, I did an augmented reality photo booth.
Yes.
Did you get your
Yes.
STARLINK photo card?
Little...
And then it was augmented reality enhanced. So the night before that launch, I was working in the studio, prepping everything, getting everything ready. It was like maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. I had a little slip and fall, fell down the stairs of my studio here, and broke my ribs.
So not only were you stoned, you had broken ribs?
Well, I was stoned because of the ribs.
Oh my gosh.
So I went to the hospital. I was up all night, went to the hospital, got my ribs checked out. They gave me a bunch of really great painkillers, which is why
you were able to come to the party.
Out of my mind. And then came back to the studio, finished everything up, went to the launch.
Wow.
And did it. And then, that's when I met you. And you guys were all awesome.
So excited. Honestly, that was one of the best.
It was a super fun night. And you guys, unfortunately, so because I wasn't quite aware of what was going on, I set the camera wrong.
Oh no.
So it recorded, but it recorded at like 2 frames per second or something. Ridiculous.
Oh wow.
So it's like,
I don't know what that means.
So that's what happened. But the audio is there. So I might just release a podcast version of it.
Well,
of
that's
just you guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
And just show images, or
maybe
just
have like a 360 like still of you guys like swearing. You guys were like.
Oh,
like,
I know.
Can we swear?
I know. It was like, I know it's a kid's game.
It's a kid's game, but.
Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Swear.
No, swear it up. Yeah.
Swear it up?
Yeah. More better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
swear.
sorry to drop.
This is a trap. Don't.
No. What if I feel it? You don't even hear it. You just feel it.
Did you feel that?
Oh.
You feel it?
Okay, listen. I'm Chase.
Can you tell she's Everybody listen to me now.
This is
My
Humberly.
name is Humberly.
So let's start with that then. Let's talk about that. So UBISOFT is awesome. They make some of the world's best games. How did you get hooked up with those guys? What was that process?
Well, I always wanted to do video games. I graduated from National Theatre School in Canada, and on my last year, NTS and UBISOFT had a partnership, and my class got to go to their studio and wear the mocap suits, and we got to actually tackle some of the scenes of video games that were already out. So we worked with people that were in Montreal, and I think it was for a whole week or more, where we just got to go there every day and play, and I was like, this is the coolest job. You get to just be in an empty volume and use your imagination and literally play.
And is there a visual reference when you're doing the mocap that you can see the character that you're puppeting, or is it
sometimes
all
the one
just
here in
in your
Toronto, they don't show anything on the screens, whereas in Montreal sometimes they have screens up on probably right in front of you where the doors are, and you can see yourself kind of walking around.
Sure.
But that's not always the case, because sometimes they just show you who your character is maybe, and then they're like, and go.
And that's,
yeah.
This is who you are now.
But it's essentially just, there's a lot of eyes on you on the day when you're shooting, and they're just like looking at the movements on the screen and looking at you and giving you notes. But a lot of the time it's just you really trying out stuff. I feel like the cool thing about mocap is that you do get to be really physical, and you get to try a bunch of things and see what works. Very much like theater. It's almost like an in-between theater and film, because there's a lot of rehearsal beforehand and planning it out and blueprinting what the scene's going to look like, and then there's actual cameras in the volume with you, plus all the infrared cameras around in the volume. So it's cool.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's dream of mine to go. I'm actually UBISOFT. We're right next door actually to UBISOFT Toronto. I'm trying to get in there with this and do a little 360 episode with some of the mocap artists and stuff, because it's such an interesting technology. And
I know.
when I saw some of the mocap stuff that's coming out, I told like a bunch of my actor friends, I'm like, you guys need to like suit up because the future's gonna be digital, right? Like there's so many crazy like film projects and stuff coming out that's like
they're using a lot of motion capture or VR or both of them. I mean, Ready Player One, when that movie came out and I saw it, I was like, whoa, this is the future. That would be a dream role, to be able to use motion capture and virtual reality plus real footage.
Yeah.
But to be able to work in a world that is made and you get to see it with the Oculus, it's wild. It's literal imagination and playing. Yeah, that would be so cool.
There's a crazy project I'm trying to work on called Elemental Seduction, and it's a virtual reality, special effects, fairy tale dance film.
What?
Which I'm trying to get sort of greenlit. I'm chasing people for money, but it's. The stuff you can do with technology now is incredible. So this whole story, I'll just give a quick sort of like brief synopsis. Maybe someone will watch this and be like, hey, here's my money. The 4 elemental gods. There's this young, beautiful woman lost in this mystical forest. She hears some music, she starts to dance, and the 4 elemental gods, one by one, sort of appear and dance with her to try to seduce her with the power of their elements. So the god of fire is very passionate and heated, and the god of water, etc., etc. And then she ends up choosing the humble musician who's sort of in the background because he's the 5th element. He represents the soul.
Yeah.
So and so I want to do it in full. It's called six DOFs, like 6 degrees of freedom. So you can actually walk around. So you're in the dance. Yeah. You're not watching it as a viewer.
You're actually like.
So you can like walk around.
Yeah.
Pause, rewind, and watch it from the angles. So. Fingers crossed. At some point that'll come out.
Hey, you never know. Manifest it.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of your film and TV stuff. Like you've been doing, like, this year's gonna be a big one for you.
I
right?
know. Mostly because a lot of the projects I was working on last year will premiere finally, and it's crazy to think of that because I remember still very clearly being on set for the various projects and just working through things and meeting people and getting it done, and watching it on screen is a whole other journey, and you still have to prep for it too. It's like it's coming. You know, right now, like obviously the first one that's gonna be out is Utopia Falls.
Yeah. And
that was my first lead series regular.
I've seen a couple of frames, but there's no real.
Yeah. There's no trailer yet.
Why are they holding back? Because that's coming out soon. That's in like
almost,
a couple of weeks.
So the trailer should be out sometime this week.
Time is the greatest thief because it's forever stealing the past. This was the legacy of our founder, Gaia. The youth of New Babel train so that we can honor our founders through performance in the city's competition.
Must be excited.
Almost definitely.
What if my name isn't called?
You're a beautiful dancer.
What's that?
I found one of those in my room, too.
You are invited to a celebration beyond the city limits. Tell no one.
What is that?
I'm the archive. Choose your subject.
What's hip hop? There is so much incredible music here. It's not just music, it's books and art and who knows what else. Why would they keep something like this from us?
This life is insanity. Tripping on it massively, we up gravity.
What is the point of this act of defiance?
I can't pretend like I never found this. They don't want you to know the truth. But it's too late for them to stop us.
For the first time, there's a connection between art and what my life is actually like.
But we built a community to protect you. The time has come to wake up the people and give them their freedom.
This is a revolution we're talking about.
So, is there anything you can talk about with your new show? Like, it seems like they're pretty buttoned up about releasing any details.
Yeah, mostly because if you talk too much about it, then the show is ruined. But no,
So
like
let's talk
Utopia
about
Falls,
it.
at least they've released a lot of the world now. we know that it's a sci-fi, we know that it's hip-hop as well.
Right.
So the cool thing about this is that it's a totally new genre that I don't think I've ever seen.
Some really cool like musical collaborators too.
I
right?
know,
Like,
yeah.
Did you work with them specifically?
I worked with their songs.
Right.
I did get to work with Boy Wonder, who
Yeah.
is incredible. Especially one of the songs specifically, we got to collaborate on it, and that was an original song that will be in the show, and I get to be
So
the
it's like a
singer.
science fiction hip hop musical.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I feel like it's like a Hunger Games meets America's Got Talent kind of world, but it's in the future.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a young audience show, so it's catered for like younger people, I guess teenagers and tweens, as you would say. But yeah, I remember when I first read for it, and I actually auditioned with like 3 different characters before I booked.
Oh, wow.
Finally, the character I ended up being in the show.
Is that common? Like when
I
you're
think
doing
so.
casting, where you sort of bounce around and they try to figure
Yeah.
out where they want to slot you in? Yeah.
That happens a lot when they really like you, but they just don't know where to put you.
Right.
And a lot of different characters have different energies. And I'm glad, because the last character I read for was Brooklyn, and that's the one I ended up getting, and that's the one I connected to the most. I could feel that this was like made for me, it felt. And she's a singer, and I get to dance, so it's like all of the things I love doing I get to do in one show. And it was a challenge. I learned a lot of lessons shooting this show and getting to work with so many incredible people. Every day that I came to work, I was just like, this is the dream, like I don't want it to end. And it was 4 months of us like really coming together, and you know, you are shooting every day, but I also had to leave, like it wasn't just shooting on set, it was also dance rehearsals and studio time for me, because I had to also sing and record the songs. So it was a lot of work, and I'm so happy that it's finally coming out with 10 one-hour episodes. It's a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And how long did that take you guys to shoot? That must have been
Yeah, about 4 months.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
In Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shot at, I forget where it's called. They shot Dark Matter there as well. Joseph Malozzi is one of the creators, which is why he also did Dark Matter and Stargate. And R.T. Thorne is the hip hop music side. So that's why it's both of them. Yeah.
Randall's.
Oh yeah. So many
I should
different
get him on
directors
the
we
show.
got. Yeah.
So Randall, I met him years ago. He co-produced one of my music videos, and it was his first producing role. And then we collaborated on some other stuff. We ended up putting in some music video grants and stuff together, and he sort of went his own way and just like blew up. He's an amazing director. He's just
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had about 4 different directors come in because we block shot, so it was like 4 or 5 different blocks, and that was really cool too, because even though it's one streamline of a show, we get to have different perspectives come in, different directing techniques and different ways of working and views on the material, which made it really exciting for us too.
How do you keep a through line then? A narrative through line, or sort of like so it doesn't feel disjointed?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
Well,
I
guess
honestly
that's
have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's the thing though, I mean, we shot a lot of even episode 1 4 months later, because it all had to do with locations and, you know, a lot of the dance numbers, things like that. We shot between like here and Hamilton and in the forest somewhere. So a lot of the time, you know, shooting chronologically is not a thing for film anyway.
Yeah.
I think what we just have to remember is adding or removing things that your character knows or doesn't know, and you adjust to that.
That's probably one of the biggest challenges is
For sure.
figuring out like, okay, where's my character?
Oh yeah,
Like,
and
where's
especially
my
when like
my
if
character arc.
day 1 of shooting is far into the future and you yet have still to see her where like she starts, you know? But for me, I just had to kind of go in literally like hitting the ground running and just make a choice on who is she, where is she, mentally, physically, and just go for it. And obviously I know more about the character towards the end when I'm shooting, because I've learned so much about, you discover things.
Right.
But you
Did
just
you ever
have
go
to
like,
go.
can we go back and reshoot that one scene? Because I got an
right.
idea now.
I wish. No, and I feel like a lot of actors feel that, especially when you spend several months shooting something, you discover things that you're like, it would have been cool if I had this piece of information at the beginning. But in a way, I mean, that's kind of the gift of working. And I think the more you do that, the more you're aware of trying to get to those moments faster and sooner, the more, this was the first time I was a series regular, which means I was there every single episode. So that's a first. That was learning how to navigate that, and with, memorizing material and learning the story and where I fall into all of that. Luckily enough, I feel like I really connected with my character's journey and through line, and she goes through so much, and I was just very excited to just be in it.
Do you get roles that you hate? Is there anything that you can talk about that you're like, ugh, it was just a disaster. Why did I ever say yes to this role?
I don't think so, especially because if
I
I'm
can
even,
edit this
I'm like,
out. You don't
but
need
I don't
to.
think I've had like a, oh my gosh, I should have never done that. Because anything I audition for, A, I can say no to if I really don't want to do it. But B, I tend to, especially recently, I got to have options on what I want to be part of. And I got to experience that last year where I was offered things that I never said yes to. And my career and path would have taken me somewhere completely different. I could have been in a different country altogether, and I could have not done Utopia Falls and been in Vancouver shooting something completely different if I had said yes to it.
Right.
I feel like ultimately my team and I make the best choices. I love them so much. I feel like they really advise me on, thinking ahead, not just for the right now and you have an offer. It's, okay, let's be smart about this. What is this going to do for your career? Where is this going to take you physically? Where are you going to be shooting this? So I'm very happy that the projects that came to be, especially last year, I think was exactly what I needed to do.
Speaking of physically being places, I just
Where are we right now?
in the future.
Yeah.
You just had an epic trip. It looked like to Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
What was that about? That looked like.
Well, no, just casually spun the globe and.
I was gonna ask, did you throw a dart at a map, or were you like, what's the most expensive exotic place in the world? Let's go to Dubai.
I know, right? It was a one-time only thing for sure. My parents live in Saudi Arabia, so it was kind of like they wanted my brother and I to go see their side of the world. Right. They've been there for almost 4 years now, because of work. It was a very wild, out of nowhere decision for them, and they just kind of did it, and they're over there just having an adventure. But
I lived in Saudi for a couple of years.
You did?
Yeah. My family moved there for work. My dad's doing some stuff.
Yeah, my dad's an engineer, so we moved around a lot.
And that's,
yeah, that's why.
Same.
But Dubai,
so have you been to Saudi then?
No. I don't know if I necessarily want to go there to see them. I would much rather meet them somewhere in Europe, which is closer to them anyway. But to go back there, it just, first it messes with my moral and me as a person of the inequality between men and women. It's very apparent. And even though in Dubai they're very open to tourists and you can dress and be whoever you want, there's still that separation. And you still almost feel like it is this weird veneer, mirage of a city that's in the middle of a desert, and suddenly it's just luxury to the nines and money, and it was really beautiful to look at, and a lot of the time it's very overwhelming. What am I looking at? I don't even know what. But Abu Dhabi was really beautiful, seeing the mosque, the architecture, a lot of their architecture there was just stunning. And
what's that big tower?
The Burj Khalifa. Yeah.
I looked at an old picture of the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Babel? And it looks similar.
Yeah.
I was are we hitting that point where we're hoping at God and saying
it's
hey,
crazy. Yeah, and I was there for 10 days. I was sick the entire time.
Oh no.
But I just had to get through it. And I was with my family. I hadn't seen them for Christmas in 2 years, so we tend to kind of meet up somewhere in the world, and this time it just happened to be there. 14-hour flight, direct flight, longest I've been on a plane. I feel like now I can travel anywhere and be 7 hours, 9 hours, easy.
I was talking to a pilot friend of mine yesterday, and he says the longest flight you can do is 19 hours.
19?
Yeah. That's because of fuel and weight. And all
yeah,
that
100%.
Stuff.
I even wondered, I'm 14 hours, I didn't know you could fly for that long.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
Were you in
once you hit 9
class,
hours,
or were you middle
no, I was
seat
in the normal economy. Otherwise, you would pay almost $10,000 to fly there. I'm that is not worth it. Why would you do that? It's ridiculous.
I can be uncomfortable for a few hours.
Yeah, exactly. At first, On the way there, it was a lot longer than on the way back. I slept for 7 hours on the way back. It was nice. Got here at 5 in the morning, so it kind of felt like I got a night's sleep. No jet lag. But on the way there, it was really weird. Like, I arrived at 8 p.m. their time, but it felt like 10 a.m. Toronto time. So I had to try and sleep that night so that I could catch up.
My craziest flight, I did a show in Beijing, a Broadway musical, where I did video set design. But my flight back, I was like never been more sort of confused by jet lag because how did it work? The time I arrived before I left, I think was how it worked because
it's like back in time and like a weird
the time. It's like, oh, it's the same day as I left,
but earlier.
And it was brutal. But
yeah.
So what's next? What are you working on? You said you're working with UBISOFT, and I know it's crazy you can't talk.
Can't even
about
talk about
stuff.
it, but yeah, I'm working on something like really cool with them, and coming up. I mean, oh my goodness, I have 2 Netflix shows that are coming out too. One is like superheroes for Netflix because everything went to like Disney Plus, and it's a new series. Yeah. It's a collaboration with Mark Miller. He is a comic book writer, and so all of his stories have now been taken. Mark Miller. Yeah, Jupiter's Circle or Jupiter's Legacy. Okay. He has a bunch of those comic books, and the story's great. It took a long time to shoot that entire series, but I'm very excited about it because it was the first time I got to do stunts and like stunt in green screen as well with like wires and stuff, and it was so wild. It was so much
like
fun.
The actor's dream. Like,
maybe I know. I feel so grateful for everything. Honestly, I feel like the second I really believed in what I could do and I got confidence as a person and as an actor, knowing what I can offer, and also welcoming challenges and welcoming the scary things of like, I've never done that, but I am so ready to learn and just show up without any excuses. That's kind of my mentality always. So even for this, I had never even done stunts like that or wires, and they just threw me in. They were like, "You good?" I'm like, "Yep, let's go." Like,
you must.
Nope, literally showed up on the day, and we have a stunt team. We went through the choreography of what I would be doing it in the air, and we just have like camera on a crane, green screen, 2 huge fans, me on wires, and it's like, we're here for you, like anything you need. And I just felt confident because I'm good with anything physical anyway, so I didn't feel like we needed to like rehearse. But yeah,
you mentioned dancing for Utopia Falls. Are you like a classically trained dancer?
No.
No, you just have the rhythm.
I have rhythm because I grew up in South America, so I can move. I can pick up a lot of things. I grew up doing a lot of musical theater, so I feel like that helped. And at NTS, we got trained in a lot of different dance forms like ballet and waltz and tango, like a bunch of different things. So I always loved doing choreography, but I am in no way a professional dancer. So I know when I saw the breakdown, I was like, ooh, they might cast like a professional dancer for this or like a professional singer.
Technically, you are a professional dancer because they paid you and you were dancing.
I guess now I am. Listen up, bro. I mean, hey, we worked with Tanisha Scott, who is Goddess, and Amanda, who also helped her. Like, both of them together, we did some crazy choreography, and I definitely had to rehearse a lot more than a lot of my peers because most of my cast who are the leads are professional dancers. They were in The Next Step and Backstage, all of those dance shows that require a lot of training, and like you have to like be able to like put your foot up all the way. Shout out to Devin.
Can you do
she does that. It's amazing. But for me, we had to do a dance callback for that audition, and I don't think I've ever been more sore in my life. Couldn't walk for 3 days afterwards. No joke. But I gave it my all. And hey, it worked because I'm there. Even though I feel like what I really had going for me is that my acting was probably the strongest of all of those 3 things that my character needed, especially for her storyline. I think they needed a really strong actor to be able to like go into those emotional depths and vice versa, just kind of this. So I felt really confident in the scenes. I was like, this is a character that I can dive into. Plus the singing, like I love singing. I've been singing my whole life. Dancing, definitely my skills went up a few levels, but it was a challenge. I felt really emotional at some points where I thought like, oh, like I am not ready for this. Like, yeah, it was scary, but we were really supported.
Would you ever consider like a singing career then? sounds like that seems to be like a passion of yours.
I
Is
know.
that something, would you be like, hey, let's record an album and see what happens?
I would, honestly. After this experience of working in a professional studio, after working with Boy Wonder and Desire, who's also an R&B pop singer, amazing. He was like my singing coach through the entirety of the show for the most part. And everybody encouraged me to lean into that a bit more. So it was exciting to be told that. I never thought that it would be anything other than a hobby or, going to karaoke from now and then, but I am considering it. And I guess now that I have this world and this kind of like, once the show premieres, people will literally hear everything that I recorded. So once that's out in the world, I would love to hear what people are going to think about it, One thing is like me loving it. Another thing is like, how will it be received? So in the end, if I really want to do something, I would definitely do it. It's scary. It's a scary thing because I feel like, especially like with music and acting, maybe you have to kind of put your 100% into one thing so that you can make it. But I have been doing the acting thing for a while, so maybe there is space for something else.
Yeah. There's people like Childish Gambino, who's like
Oh
a
my God,
phenom
yeah.
at everything he does.
I never even knew he sang, and I'm like, wait, isn't he from Community? What is
Yeah.
happening right now?
Well, you see, he's just this kind of like goofy,
Yeah.
like comedy
Mhm.
character, and then you hear his music, and you're like, wow, this guy's incredible.
And so good. So for sure, I have a lot of passion for singing. I think it was my first love. I grew up singing. My mom sings, my dad sings, my brother sings, my aunts and uncles. Like, I have a family of singers because it's a way of expressing emotions when you can't. Or that's why I love musical theater. It's like, I am talking to you, but I can't explain this feeling, so I go into song. Like, it's just...
Do you ever do that, like, accidentally in real life?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
you
Talk
have
to
a
anybody that knows me. I am
conversation?
constantly singing. Even if I'm cooking, I'm just like, grab and plate and get in the broccoli and chop, chop. Like, I'm always just like doing random things like that. And I feel like I don't go a day without singing or humming or like something. It's like when I have a song stuck in my head, I just have to like physically and verbalize it.
Have you written any music? Any of your
I
own stuff? Okay. Do you play? Are you?
I'm learning guitar. I'm not very good at it. I can read music like A, B, C, D and do all of the chords, but that's something I do want to lean into. I think I've been hesitant just because maybe in my head it's not something that's really real, but after doing the show, it definitely feels like it could be something I can dive into. I'm excited to see where this year and all of the things. Obviously, time is a big aspect of it. Like, if I'm doing acting full time like last year, I honestly would go to set and then come home and sleep. And then on the weekends, I'd be either rehearsing or in the studio, and then I would sleep. Like, that was my life for the most part.
So how much disconnect is there then? Like, you're talking about, you shoot a show and sometimes it doesn't come out for a while.
Yeah.
And then it comes out. That must be kind of surreal because it feels like such a distant
It's been,
memory.
yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's time. It's been a year since we almost started shooting Utopia Falls. We started in March, so only a month before after now that it will premiere, it'll be a year. But it's crazy because that feels so recent, and yet I've done so much since. Like, I went to Newfoundland and shot. I did like Private Eyes. I did my 2 shows. I went to Winnipeg to shoot a feature. I came back here. I did like video game stuff and voiceover. And so much has happened since, and suddenly you keep yourself busy and next thing you know, it's like, oh, we're at the beginning of the cycle again, but in a different way where like you'll get to see your work probably in one day. I'm going to binge it. It's going to be 10 hours of my life. And it's just going to be like,
Do you like watching yourself?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when I'm shooting
not in
too.
a sort of like a narcissistic
No, I
way
feel
or
like
whatever, but
there's some actors that can't handle that or don't want it, or like the work was there, I left it, it's done, it was a job, or whatever. I mean, everyone's process is different, but for me, even watching it like replay or like on set, I really, really enjoy it. And not because I'm trying to recreate something. For me, it is moment to moment, and I like seeing it because the thing is that we're in the business of seeing it on screen. Whatever you're feeling, if it's not reading on screen, then you gotta figure something else out, right?
Yeah.
For me, I learn a lot by watching other people work. I learn a lot by watching shows and watching TV. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Not for me. I don't get self-conscious or judgmental. I don't say, oh, that's horrible. I never put myself down in my work because I know it's a process. And so watching it is just the final step, especially because the show gets rewritten once again when the editors go in there.
Right.
and the music goes in and color correcting and all this stuff. So it's a different thing living it and seeing what takes they use and how it's edited. That for me, it's like, that's the cherry on top. That is me being like, we did it, now I can move on to my next thing. Because if I don't watch it, then I'm always going to be curious about, oh, I wonder what, like, how did it turn out? What did it look like?
Feel like?
And I never do it with that judgmental eye. I may freak out and watch it like 7 times because the first time I'm like, okay, I'm just like staring at my face, and then I'll stare at my actor's face and everybody else, and then I can see the whole world. I have to watch it a few times so I can like relax into it, because I do get very excited. I'm like, that's my face. Like, I don't think it'll ever go away.
I have a hard time when I was directing music videos and anything that I direct or create. I have a hard time watching it.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me physically uncomfortable. When every music video I ever directed or cut, I would leave the room when people watched it. I couldn't be in the room. I would have like, and I would make up excuses like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom.
And then
or
there's
I'm gonna
me
go
just
grab
like
a coffee.
staring at them watching it. I'm like,
No, I can't. It's so uncomfortable to me.
And I get that. I feel like
my nerves are just.
yeah,
shot.
it's your work and you're put on the spot. It's a very vulnerable thing to see a result that it's permanently there, it's recorded, it's never going to change from what it is. So you, even if you have a certain kind of feeling about it, you feel a certain type of way, like you have to let it go. For me, it's like a beautiful thing of like, even if it's not what I thought it would be in a negative way, it still just is, and people have different opinions when they watch things. Some people love or hate things, but it's never going to change the outcome of like what is actually there. So I just let it go, and it's like, well, on to the next, and there will be next ones. So
I think for me, I'm just so critical. Like
Yeah.
I'll watch it, it's like perfect except for one pixel, and I'll
Right.
just be like, that's the thing that jumps out at me. So
Right.
I'm like, man, I wish but I mean, my biggest challenge is saying like it's done, and then putting it out, because I'm like, oh, I
Because
can
you're
make it better, I
nitpicking
can
at
make it better.
things. So
And I think I edit things to the point sometimes where they get worse.
Right, because you
I'm
over
like,
edit, or you don't let
over
it kind
edit,
of be,
and it doesn't have that.
I get that.
I think some of my best projects are the ones that I have this timeline that I just have to put it
You
out.
just have to put it out, and that's
then
it. You
it's
cut
just sort of
yourself off.
that organic, sort of natural,
Yeah.
rhythm or instinct or whatever comes out. And,
I think that says a lot about how we live life too. I mean, a lot of the time when we don't overplan things, or it's like, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. I'm like, that's kind of, it's true though, because whatever's gonna happen will happen. But I take that approach when I do self-tapes and auditions. I do not like spending a lot of time on self-tapes. And a lot of the time, if I like a take and I've flubbed a word or missed a moment or something happens, I will still send that tape in because it was still very alive and it was in the moment. I'd much rather that than nitpick at every single moment, or like, oh, I didn't like my face in this, or like, ooh, that word sounds weird. Like, that's not real. Also, it's an audition and it is not the final result. But I know that casting agents and people that are looking at the tape are looking at someone who is working and alive and in the moment, rather than like something that is perfected. And for me, that means a lot more than like the perfection of it, which is why I give myself like 3 takes tops, unless it's something a very physical tape where I had to do it a few times until I really get it. But I never go past like 3 takes. And I know that when I go pick which one I'm gonna send, my first one is always like the strongest one, because it's my instinct. I'm going from like newness and new energy, and it's fascinating. Yeah, learning to like kind of cap yourself and be like, I know that if I keep doing it and doing it and doing it, I'm just gonna be like trying to recreate this, or like trying to recreate this feeling or this emotion. And for me, that's not acting. Acting
it's
is
manufactured at that point.
Totally.
Yeah.
And yes, our work has a lot of repetition, but I am never recreating what I did last. I'm always trying to find new moments, like you do when you do a theater. Once a night, you get to go from beginning to end, but every show is different, even though it's the same material. That's what makes it so exciting, and you could do it for a long time. You get exhausted after a while, but yeah.
Do you prefer theater to film? I think
They're so different. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right now, I definitely prefer film to theater. I haven't done theater since I graduated, but it's definitely for me.
I think
I think,
energy of theater, though.
Totally.
That
you don't get the immediate like, we love it. You know, when you're shooting, it's kind of like, I mean, I guess you have the crew and the director and everyone being like, okay, we got it, moving on. But you don't like, and in theater, it is an experience. You don't often get to watch it. So it's more of an internal experience rather than.
True,
getting to watch it like a year later after you do it, that's bizarre to me.
It's the moment and then it's done.
Yeah, it's the moment it's done. You're literally living it, so it's a lot different. And that's why I think in theater, that's where the heart of acting is. It taught me a lot about literally igniting my entire body to feel something, and that a lot of the time behavior trumps words, and it isn't just all here. Sometimes body language speaks louder than words, and it taught me a lot about that. It was really magical when I got to do theater and like do musical theater and different types of plays. Yeah. Hello?
Where are we?
I don't know, we've kind of gone all over the place, but
when did you start acting? Let's go there. What was your what motivated you? What in your life were you born and you're like, I'm
the
I'm a
world
star.
is my oyster.
Yeah. Love me, I'm an actor.
I mean, growing up in South America, I think prepared me for this world. People back home, I grew up in Venezuela. So growing up in a country like that, back when it was safe and beautiful, I mean, don't go there now. It's really bad. But when I grew up there, there's something about my culture that is very outgoing, very charismatic. You own your skin and yourself. People are not afraid to be yourself, loud and proud, and dance on the streets and compliment people and meet strangers, and that's really infused in my culture, especially
the value of joy, like you.
Oh yeah.
Like
even when you go through the bad times, there's always this like hopefulness and happiness that you never leave, because things will turn around, things will be better, and that was kind of the mentality I grew up with. Plus singing and dancing, it was just always a very performative act that also brought you joy. So everybody did it, so you would too. And I grew up around all of that. As a kid, I literally used to sign myself up for singing competitions to win Barbie doll houses. Literally, I would sing at the mall for like singing competitions and win them. And because I was just like confident out there, I had no fear whatsoever to like be in front of a crowd. I used to literally sing for like my parents' friends at their parties. Just like, okay, it's time for us. Like me and my brother would do that and like sing Avril Lavigne or something. It was just part of me always. We used to shoot like little like homemade movies and stuff. I had a little camcorder and a little like cassette recording like recorder, and I always was singing, dancing, doing something. And even my parents saw it. They were like, you were like a little actor and performer since you were very, very small, before I could even remember.
And when did you start acting professionally? Was it
Professionally? It was 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
4.5, yeah. When
so
I moved to Toronto.
You're not a child star that
no,
has
definitely
that
not.
image.
No, I mean, when I moved to Canada, that's when everything changed, because I was in a country where you could go to acting school as a post-secondary option after high school, and that doesn't exist in South America. At least not to my knowledge. Not in Venezuela, not if I had stayed. So.
Is it Portuguese or Spanish in Venezuela?
Spanish, yeah.
You have no accent.
Thank you, I worked really hard.
Was it something you had to work on?
For
or
sure,
that you did work on? Yeah.
When I learned English, I was a teenager, pretty much, when I was fully fluent, and I was in grade, it was like 12, 13, maybe like grade 6 or 7. That's when I finally was really fluent and getting into it. But, you know, learning a language takes experience too. I didn't know what being sarcastic meant, or, you know, there's a lot of little idioms of the language that you have to learn, and that's through experience that like no textbook can really teach you. But it took me like within the year when I was exposed to English, I was already fluent, but I did have an accent for sure.
Does the accent turn on at any point? Like if
yes, like when I'm really emotional, or when I drink and I'm like, my inhibitions are low, my accent comes out for sure. Like my eyes, the letter I goes into E, and like, what is this? They're like, oh, I don't know what that was. But I don't think I think about placement anymore. I think now this is my natural sound, and I could turn it off and on, and I have for different roles. When I did Orphan Black, I had to have a Spanish accent, so that was the first time I got to use it in the work, which was cool. Yeah, that was like my first like big recurring role. I did 2 episodes, and it was my first time on a big set with like Tatiana Maslany being right there, and I was just like, this is crazy.
I was talking to them about doing a 360 promo bit for them actually
years
ago. cool.
Yeah.
The concept was having her play all of her different characters in 360. So as you look around, we do basically like Masquerade.
Cool. I know.
And they were
She's
stoked about it. They
fantastic.
just didn't have a budget.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I don't know where the question went. But yeah, I think when I moved to Canada, it became more real. Like I was in drama when I was in high school, and then I went into community theater in Fort Mac, and then in 2012, that's when I decided to go to theater school in Montreal.
So you went to which school in Montreal?
National Theater School.
National Theatre School.
Yeah. And when I graduated, I just moved here. That was 4.5 years ago in 2015.
Did you learn French?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Un petit peu. My school is, it has a francophone side and an English side, both for acting, but I was on the English side. But even living there, I felt like I was an expert at ordering food.
That's all you need.
That's all you need to survive. Yeah.
I lived there for a few years. And it's
beautiful.
But my French just never happened. I was living in Old Port, so it's primarily
Oh,
English.
wow.
And
Yeah, that's
all
true.
of my clients, all my work, all my friends, everybody spoke
Yeah.
English. And even when I tried to speak French, people would hear how bad it was, and they would just speak English
Like
back.
just,
I'm
yeah,
like,
reply in
"No."
English. You're like, I want to learn. It's like, no.
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 You want to wrap this up?
Yeah.
How you feeling? Yeah?
Good.
Good? Let's wrap this up.
We're in a black space. The walls are falling down. We got a podcast that's gonna blow your mind. I don't know. That was horrible.
Perfect.
Talked about the walls and the podcast.
That's a wrap. Can't
Yeah,
end
that's
any
right.
better than that. Thank you so much.
You're
That
welcome.
was fun.
Chokes. Thanks, lights, for behaving.
Yeah, once we got stuff working, it was fun.